So not all sleep is created equal. So chances are if you're waking up and feeling groggy, if you got bags under your eyes, if you've got, if you've got brain fog that lasts most of the day, if you've got immune issues and recurring health problems that just aren't going away, chances are one of the issues, at least one big issue that I'll have you consider, is that you're not getting enough sleep. And so today I'm going to share with you how to maximize the quality of your sleep so you can just be on fire for the day. Okay, so let's go. All right, so welcome back to the channel where we empower families to create awesome health so that you can have more presence, more purpose, and better performance for your lifetime. And so, for many people, a good night's sleep is an evasive, elusive daydream. I know as a parent to young children, it can be a nightmare sometimes trying to get a good night's sleep. And oftentimes, especially in the beginning, and we're going through a period of it right now we have a 6-year-old who sleeps fantastic and our 2.5-year-old who sleeps decently. And so it's not the best. And what's interesting is that we all know, and we've all been taught from a very young age, and hopefully when we were younger, we had some good sleep habits and we had some good sleep routines, but oftentimes throughout our lifetime, as we get to be adults, we take that for granted. We go through periods of when we go through school, we have all-nighters, we've got all this stuff, and we think that by not getting enough sleep, it's not that big of a deal. It's like, yeah, it would be nice if I could get better sleep, but it's not causing you a bunch of problems. But what I'll have you consider is that not sleeping well has a ton of unintended consequences that are absolutely terrible. And on the flip side of that, if you do get good quality sleep, the unintended consequences, or actually I guess the intended consequences of that are absolutely amazing. So this is the obvious signs when we don't sleep properly, we don't get enough good deep sleep, and I'll go through that in a second. So we don't get enough good deep sleep. The obvious signs is like, we don't feel great, we feel groggy, there's a lot more going on, like we feel like shit, we're feeling kind of lethargic, and by the end of the day, like we can't even function, and we're like pounding back coffees and pounding back drinks just to like get through the day. And we think that's all that's going on. But I'll have you consider this. Research has shown that your risk of cancer doubles if you're not getting about 6 to 7 hours of good quality sleep every night. Not only that, but your metabolic diseases totally increases and messes up your metabolism. So over time, that causes issues with weight gain, lower libido, and for men, causes difficulty in like getting and maintaining an erection, causes sexual dysfunction all around for men and women. Leads to lower drive in life, period, and in general, which leads to more apathy, more procrastination, and just loss of efficiency and just loss of like for life. And so it's a way bigger deal than I'll have you consider that you're probably allowing yourself to admit and are willing to admit. So while there's many things that that can affect sleep, and you can watch our videos from last week. There's a bunch of videos on our channel. Have a look at those, and I'll put some of the links in the description below about the different sleep issues and sleep tactics and hacks and different things that we go over. But today I really want to focus on some of a few of the biggest things that I see with our clients, questions that I get, or issues that are kind of revolve, like they can tend to recur from client to client, and things that I've gone through myself. So this is one of the most prevalent ones, most prevalent questions I get is when should I go to bed? What's a good bedtime? When's an adequate, when's an ideal bedtime? Myself, if it was just left up to me, I would be up all night and I'd probably sleep all day. But I know that that's not good, but I love being awake at night. And there are other people who like to get to bed early and they like to wake up early. Now over time, because I have kids, because I have multiple businesses, there are things that I need to do throughout the day. So I make sure that I get up early. So I'm up super early in the morning. With that, necessitates going to bed a bit earlier. Now, like I said, I tell a lot of people, I hate getting up in the morning. As much as I can get done, and I preach this stuff, I hate getting up in the morning. But I love being up in the morning. if that makes sense. The time that I get before anyone else wakes up in the house, that's my time. So that's the time I go through my morning routine, things that I do to get myself in state, get myself in power, get myself productive, get myself efficient for the day, and make sure that I can stay on top of all the necessary things with the foundational 4 across, across fitness, fuel, focus, and frame to make sure that my health and my body are dialed in. Now, with that, then I need to make sure if I'm going to wake up in the morning that I need to go to bed at night. Now, everybody is going to be a little bit different. I mean, overall, if this was just a perfect world and we all had the same schedules and we all had the same availability, going to bed earlier in the night and waking up earlier in the day is absolutely the best. But that doesn't mean that that's going to be right for everybody right now, because your schedule might be totally different, and so what's far more important, and it's like when you go to bed, is that you're getting an adequate amount of sleep and a good quality sleep. So one of the things that you can ensure, and this is really interesting, is that for a lot of people what ends up happening is you'll go to bed earlier in the day, or I guess earlier at night during the week, and get up earlier in the morning in the week, but then in the weekend, so Friday, Saturday, you tend to stay up later and then get up later. And that seems to be the norm for a lot of people. But what's really important, and actually what studies have shown, is that going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time, both of those things, just as important, going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time consistently will have a much better effect on your quality of sleep than if you start to change it all the time. So even me now, like when we go out, and if we're out, we're typically not out super late anymore because we have the 2 kids. But even if I am out till midnight or past midnight, my alarm is still set for 5 a.m. the next morning. And regardless of what happens, my alarm goes off every single day at 5 a.m. And I'm up every single day, most days. I'm not the best sometimes, I will admit. But 5 a.m. is when my wake up time is. No matter when I go to bed, 5 a.m. is the wake up time. So that is always consistent, regardless of what happens that night. But what that does is that allows me to then the next day, I can have one bad day afterwards. There's some things that I went over on last week's live stream, some things we go over on some other videos where I go over how to mitigate the damage of a bad night's sleep. But I know, so I'll do those the next day, but I want to make sure that I just have, there's like one bad day afterwards, if that's gonna be the case, and not like mess up my whole schedule moving forward. So as long as I can keep that schedule consistent, so my wake up time is always the same. My bedtime throughout the week and most days is pretty consistent. It'll vary a little bit, but one thing that is like solid is my wake up time. So the more that you can incorporate that, so never mind going to bed late in the weekends, getting up late in the weekends, and then doing the flip-flopping around every week, that's gonna just mess up your schedule. It's gonna mess up the circadian rhythms in your body, and it's gonna cause a lot more damage. Now, it does take a bit of time to get used to that type of schedule, but you're going to be much better off by just maintaining the same wake up time, same bedtime, regardless if it's you go to bed late and wake up late, go to bed early, wake up early, whatever it is, but making sure that those are consistent. Now, what they found was that those variations in sleep patterns that from when you're waking up early, like I mentioned earlier, waking up early in the weekdays or weekends, waking up late on the weekdays is like terrible for your metabolic health. Like, so increased weight gain, decreased libido, increased risk of cancer, increased risk of heart disease, were all associated with those kind of flip-flopping of the sleep schedules. So much better to just maintain them for that. And so how do you determine what the best time to wake up is? How do you determine the best time to go to bed is? Well, one of the times you can determine when you need to go to bed is when you want to wake up. And that's based on 3 things. We're called the 3 S's: your sites, your schedule, and your season. So in terms of your sites, like what are your goals? What do you want to do? What is the vision that you have for your life? What is it, the things that you want to accomplish throughout the day? If you're on an endless vacation and you don't have much to do, well, it doesn't really matter when you wake up. You can sleep all day, you can, whatever, that doesn't really matter. But if you have things in mind that you want to accomplish, whenever those things happen, you want to make sure that you're ready for them, that you're prepared, that you're engaged, that you're rested and recovered for those things. So set your sights on. So whatever your sights are set on, that's what you want to determine, how you want to determine your bedtime. Then it's your schedule. I mean, you may not be able to, you may have shift work, you may have classes in the morning, you may have, kids that you need to wake up for, all those things. So whatever your schedule will allow for you to do, base that on that. And sometimes your schedule changes, and that's the last thing is when you're in season. So if you have kids, especially if you have young kids, you are in a season where your sleep, as good as you try to make it, will never likely be ideal. Even if you have endless amounts of nannies and au pairs that take care of your kids, that doesn't matter. You will still have sleepless nights. You will still have those things. You'll still be dealing with those things. And so making sure that whatever your season is in, and we had, not a big scare, but I remember the first night that after my first daughter was born, my wife and I were sitting around and acting as if we didn't have a child. Our daughter was sleeping, and we were out in the living room watching a movie. And then all of a sudden it's like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and our daughter was still sleeping, and we're like, oh, yeah, maybe we should go to bed. Oh yeah, people tell us like you should sleep when the baby sleeps. But we were just like so used to like staying up a bit later, waking up later, that it didn't seem to matter. But that first night was a huge wake-up call, because a couple hours after I went to bed, I was up, for a couple hours walking my daughter, and it showed me like, oh yeah, we need to get on a different schedule because of this season of my life that I'm in. So depending on your sites, depending on your schedule, and depending on your season, that will determine when the best time for you to go to bed, the best time for you to wake up. Now, the next thing is that's very prevalent, or something to consider, is your exercise. Now, when's the best time to exercise? First of all, any time is a good time to exercise. If you're choosing between should I exercise or not, any time. Like, no exercise is way worse than some exercise any time throughout the day. If you do get to the point, or if you are in that point in your life where you are making the conscious choice to exercise every day or to exercise multiple times a week, then you can decide when that happens. Now, if you are up earlier in the morning, what we know is that the morning tends to be the best in terms of shifting your circadian rhythms. Exercise tends to be the best in the morning. So if you're exercising like aerobic exercise in the morning, or even in the early afternoon, stimulates an earlier melatonin release earlier in the day. So I guess, or it's earlier in the evening, so it starts to shift your circadian rhythms forward so you can get to sleep better. The other thing is if you're able to exercise outdoors, especially in the morning, that may have some added benefit that you're actually exposing yourself to sunlight. So one of the things, regardless of when you wake up, like me, especially now, it's when it's 5 a.m. Here in Vancouver, there's still some sunlight. Like the sun hasn't actually risen quite yet, but it's light outside. So I make sure I go outside first thing, I get my cup of coffee, and I go outside just to get some fresh air, wake myself up a little bit because the mornings are a bit crisper. But if you are up and you can get outside and get some sunlight, that's the number one, or the best. Number two is as soon as you wake up, if it's still dark outside or whatever the case is, you want to make sure you open the blinds if you can, turn on the lights. You want to make sure that you're exposing yourself to as much light, because that will start to shift your body and start to raise cortisol levels, which is, many people think is a bad thing, raising cortisol, which is the main stress hormone in your body. But your stress, or I guess your cortisol levels, should be highest or should be higher in the morning, because that's when it's like the awake hormone. It's not necessarily a bad stress hormone, but it's the awake hormone. So it allows your body to wake up. When that happens, again, it starts to induce that circadian rhythm that is meant to help you not only be awake when you want to be awake, but also start to get back to sleep when you're asleep. So people have found that, research has found that exercise in the evening may negatively affect your sleep quality. For people who are early birds, like if you're going to bed earlier, then you may not want to be exercising later on in the day. Some people, especially, and research has shown that as long as you're exercising as long as about a 90 minutes or an hour and a half to 3 hour gap between the time that you finish exercising and the time that you go to bed, it shouldn't affect your sleep quality all that much. Now, in our house, what I know is that if I exercise in the evening, especially if I just do something that's a bit shorter in duration, what they call a HIIT workout, so like a high intensity interval training, so like a shorter, like very intense but short, 10 to 20 to 25 minutes, I'm fine to go to bed an hour and a half or a couple hours later. My wife, however, is very different. If she exercises anywhere past 4 p.m., 5 p.m., she's wired and she can't get to sleep. So everybody's body's gonna be a little bit different, and so that's something to take into consideration. And so at least if you're getting exercise at least 90 minutes to 2 hours before sleep, should be okay. But again, everybody's body is going to be a little bit different depending on what your sites, depending on what your schedule, depending on your seasons. That's going to determine a little bit more what you should be doing. Now, we've covered bedtime. We've covered exercise. Another big thing that we see that is very, very important, very critical for a lot of people, but it's often overlooked, is spinal health and spinal distortions, nerve interference, and postural issues. One of the things that we know, research has shown time and time again that abnormal postures not only look not great, but cause many changes in your body's physiology. Like, we know that poor posture affects your ability to breathe properly. It affects your ability to take in or to take in oxygen. It affects your body's function and be able to form. Remember when we were back in school, we were all taught that there's one thing in our body that controls absolutely everything else, and that's this thing, right? Your brain is connected to the rest of your body through the spinal cord, which is in the middle of the bones of your spine, and out from there, those wires that connect to everything, those nerves, right? So just like you've got your skull that protects your brain, thank God we've got that, right? The extension of your skull really is your spine. So your spine's primary function is really for protection. It's the suit of armor that protects everything. So when your spine is in its normal position and moves the way that it should, that provides good protection for the nervous system, that allows your brain to fire properly and speak to the body properly, and allows your body to speak properly to the brain, and your body tends to function properly. What we know is because of different stresses and injuries and postures and bad habits and bad postures and accidents and all kinds of stuff that can happen over a lifetime, the spine can get misaligned. And when the spine gets misaligned, there's a myriad of things that start to happen. But one of the things that it does is it causes your brain to shift and causes your nervous system to shift into more of a what's called sympathetic dominant state, which is more fight or flight, more stress state, and less what we call parasympathetic, which is more like the rest and digest state of your body. So when there's distortions to the spine, when there's misalignments in the spine, that does not allow your body to rest, recover properly, because your brain is in a state of stress more often and stuck in that sympathetic dominant state. And so not only does that start to affect pain in your body, that can cause pain within the body, that causes distortions with the hormonal system, systemic inflammatory issues, all those things that happen, which can wreak havoc on your sleep. That can lead to things like sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea, where people are snoring lots, and those are things that we see people with a lot here in the office. And so not only do we want to look at the things that we do, like our lifestyle issues, but we also want to look at internally across, like I said, across those foundational 4 domains: fitness, fuel, focus, and frame. Frame being your brain and nerve system, the supporting structures of your body like your spine, and making sure that your spine is aligned. People that we see that get adjusted on a regular basis have a much easier time, better time getting to sleep. Because also when we look at our sleep, and this is something I talked about last week, I'll bring this up for a second, is when we look at our sleep cycles, those stages of sleep, when we go through a typical sleep cycle, let's say for kids it's about 45 minutes, they'll go through an entire cycle, and for adults it's a bit longer than that. So when we look at the different stages of sleep, one of the things that we often see is that people, if you have a tough time getting to sleep, you often get stuck in what we can see here as the stage 1, stage 2, where it's kind of it's like lighter sleep. And it's not until we get to stage 3, which is what we consider deep sleep. Deep sleep, the brain waves are the lowest that they are. Your muscles are relaxed the most that they are throughout your sleep cycles. It's the hardest for you to wake up in that time. You're just that's when you're deep asleep. And those are the times when your brain and your body begin to recover. Now, because of the different things that we do, because of spinal distortions, because of too much alcohol, too much sugar, too much, the things with our fuel and our diet that we look at, exercise and stress and all the different things that negatively affect your body, you'll tend to stick in that 1 and 2 more often, and sometimes even skip 3, skip 4, or not staying there very long, and then you skip into stage 5, which is what they call rapid eye movement. If you've ever seen a kid sleep, you ever watch somebody sleep and you see their eyelids flip like that, where their eyes kind of flip around behind their eyelids, that's rapid eye movement. It's more like the dream state. Like that. It's easier to get to sleep, easier to wake up in that state, and so we don't get enough deep sleep when all of these things are being done. And so one of the things when we look at those things, the overarching reason why people won't take action or won't do the things necessary comes down to the last thing, the last big item that I think is so critical and so often overlooked by most health professionals, because we don't necessarily think of it as a health issue. But I'll tell you that this is one of the major health issues of our day, and that is one of purpose. Like, why? So if you're sitting here right now, if you've made it this far into this video today, if you've watched any of our other videos, I mean, it means that you want to make some sort of change. You're not here because you just want to stay the same. You're not here, you didn't log on to YouTube, you didn't log on to wherever you are right now and say, I wanted to learn absolutely nothing. I want to learn some stuff, but I don't want to change anything. I don't want anything to change. Everything is perfect right now, and that's it. What I know about you, if you're watching this right now, is that you want something to change. You want more energy. You want more confidence. You want better sleep. You want a better sex drive. You want, better health. You want all of these things. And so one of the reasons, one of the overlooked reasons is why? Like, what's the purpose? What do you even want to get out of sleeping better? Like, so ask yourself this question. If I were to sleep better, if I were to be more rested, what might be possible for me? What might be possible if I were to sleep better? Like, think about how much more energetic would you be? How much more creative? How much more inspired? How much more, joyful would you be? How much kinder would you be? How much more compassionate, generous of spirit would you be? How much better of a friend would you be? How much better of an employer or an employee or a partner or any of those things? How would that start to shift? How much happier would I be overall if I were to sleep better? And why is it? I know for me, over the last 6 years, there's been a big driving force in me to be able to take care of myself the best. And I have not been the best at it. I am human just like everybody else. Even though I am a health professional, even though I'm a doctor of chiropractic, even though I teach all this stuff every single week, there are times when I falter as well. But what gets me back on track, and what I will have you consider, is the biggest thing that will get you back on track and get you to do whatever it takes for you to sleep better, is to have a big reason why. And for me, like I mentioned, over the last 6 years, has been my kids. I want to be the dad that has energy to take care of them, energy to play with them, and energy to just be an awesome dad. I want to be the example. I want to be the guiding light for them. I want for them to look up to their dad and say, yeah, I'm going to follow his example. Because kids most often, will not necessarily hear what you say or do what you say, but they will do what you do. They will do what you do. I had an amazing experience the other day where my daughter was having trouble taking the cap off of the toothpaste. And so I was sitting there watching her, and she was really struggling with taking the cap off, like the clip cap off of the toothpaste. And I said, Ev, do you want me to help you? And she said, it's okay. I like to be challenged sometimes, or I like to challenge myself sometimes. And I'm like, that's so great. That is amazing. And so I know that there was some time that she probably saw me being challenged by something that I went through it, or it's something that I told her that I followed through with. And I know that there are times when they're going to learn from their environment, and that's life, right? But I also want to make sure that the things that get taught to my kids are taught through example. And the same goes for you. What is the example that you're setting for your family? What is the example that you're setting for your world? Are you showing up the way that you want? Are you showing up the way that you need? And that starts with the sleep that you get. That starts with, from the moment you wake up, what does your day look like? Are you waking up with purpose? Are you waking up for health? Are you waking up to be the person that does all the things to have the life that you want? So have you consider that it all starts with why? Why do I want to sleep? Why do I want to be healthy? Why do I want a successful life? So have you write down that, what is your why? And once you go through a day where it's not so good, because we don't always have great days, is to anchor yourself back to your why. And that will make the changes and allow you to make the changes necessary for you to have an awesome day. So what is that why? So let's get to sleep. and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. I'd love to get your comments. What area are you being challenged by? What area do you need help with? Reach out to us if you need anything. Our contact are in the description below. And make sure that you subscribe and get notifications so that you'll know when we're doing things like this, putting out videos. I want to make sure that I empower you as much as I can so that you can empower others, so that you can live an amazing life and have more presence, purpose, and performance for a lifetime. So again, I'm Dr. Alain Desaulniers here at Revolution Health, and we'll see you on the next